here's Brody Brazil.
Like a lot of you, a couple days ago, I saw the NBA on TNT do their farewell program from the Turner campus in Atlanta, Georgia. And I also saw a lot of confusion because people were saying, wait, I thought Inside the NBA is continuing, but how does that work when the NBA on TNT is apparently all done? I'll explain all that, but just understand this. There are some pretty big changes for basketball television coming at the start of next regular season. You're seeing it here at the end of this season and into the playoffs the same way that it's always been. But starting in the fall, late summer, early fall of next year, there are some big changes for the NBA on television. Inside the NBA is an interesting part of all that, but to be clear, here is exactly what's going on. The NBA, a couple months ago, signed a new national television rights deal, which, as I said, begins next season. It is 11 years, $76 billion with Disney, including ABC and ESPN, with NBC Universal, all their different channels and platforms, and with Amazon Prime Video. So now they're adding some new names and faces into the mix. Not that NBC Universal or Amazon Prime are necessarily new to sports production or new on the market at all. That's not the case. NBC's coming back with the NBA, and Amazon Prime Video is now a newcomer in terms of partnership with the NBA. But that makes TNT the odd platform out. They've been broadcasting games since November of 1989. And if you think about it, right, it feels like maybe just yesterday they were relatively new on the scene, TBS, but more so TNT in terms of NBA coverage. But it's been now since 1989 that they've been around, and now at the end of this season, you saw their regular season farewell show. At the end of these playoffs, the NBA on TNT will be no longer. However, Inside the NBA, the studio show, which we'll document here momentarily, it's almost like people were more upset that Inside the NBA would be disappearing rather than the NBA on TNT package would be disappearing. There's a moderate level of disappointment that the NBA will no longer be on TNT. People liked their coverage. People like the nights of the week. People just like the flavor and the presentation and something they've been used to, again, since 1989. But people were more upset than the games going away on this channel. They were more upset that their favorite show of people and personalities before, at halftime, and after the show might be going away. People were really upset that these four might be getting split up, like the band was going to be broken up between Shaq and Ernie and Charles and Kenny. But it turns out the show is actually going to continue on. The show Inside the NBA is technically like being licensed by Disney. It's getting bought by Disney. Disney is basically saying, all right, Turner, TNT, you keep producing this show. You do it from your studios. You do it the same way you've always been doing it. We're actually not gonna mess with something that's going well. You keep doing it. We'll just take your show and put it on our channel at the very same times that you used to do on TNT. I mean, they are entirely poaching the show and all its people. They're not poaching it. They're buying it. Everybody's getting paid for this. Everybody got a new contract for this. So it's not the worst thing in the world. But it is interesting and unique. I don't know that I've ever seen something like this happen in big-time sports media. That the show itself, the studio show, is such an entity that ESPN would grab it, say, no, we want that. Usually it's, that's great, but we have our own people. We already have people on staff, and ESPN literally looked at this show and said, that is maybe even more valuable than the entire TNT package, and we want to take that. We want to make sure that doesn't go away. In fact, we will pay for that. We want it so much. Turner's going to continue to produce the show and license it to ESPN and ABC, and it's going to be ABC and ESPN's primary coverage. Like, this is not something that gets buried. It's not something they're going to take on and do for charity. Like, they are going to make this the primary show, as it probably should be. And let me actually just give some quick feelings here on Inside the NBA. As somebody who's done thousands and thousands of studio shows, pregame, postgame, intermission, halftime, you name it, when it ever came to a brainstorming meeting in the networks I worked at and the shows and productions I was on, there would always be the conversation of, well, who does the studio show best? What are the examples out there that we might want to model ourselves after? And Inside the NBA was always right up there, pretty much ahead of anything and everything else. You can talk about NFL shows on Sundays, and you can talk about, different programming and studio programming over the years. Inside the NBA was always at the top of the list and widely regarded as probably the best studio show in all of sports production. And again, it's because of the personalities. Ernie and Shaq and Charles and Kenny, they're the staples on the show. Now, they didn't even all join at the same time. It's not like this started one day and it kind of evolved over the years, but it just goes to show you that timing is everything. Like being on right after a game, that's pretty important to capturing an audience. But the people and personalities of your show are what viewers gravitate to. And for a lot of networks, it's like the product is most important. And the product is the reason why people will tune in. That is true. The product is what brings the audience. But what keeps the audience are the people. And so in the case of Ernie and Shaq and Charles and Kenny, that chemistry, the stuff that they built instinctively and naturally over the years, it took years for them to feel as comfortable on air and on set with each other. And they can read each other's minds and they're one step ahead of you. That is a relationship on air and on the set that is to be cherished and not broken up. And if you watch their shows, like I did over the years, like they of course recap the game that we just watched. But to be quite honest, sometimes it's a very mediocre analysis of the actual game. They'll go over it, but you just saw it. They were more focused on the bigger conversations. Let's talk about some of the other things that happened in the league, some of the other bigger topics that people want to discuss. And if our game tonight brought that big topic, great, we'll stick on that. But they were not afraid to go touch on anything and everything surrounding the NBA in terms of just like basketball culture. And so this show, like one of the reasons it remains, and I say not was, but is and still will be so successful, is because they'll have the same producers, they'll have the same production, but it's a less produced show. Now, I don't mean like they don't work hard on it. They work extremely hard on it, but they're not so regimented in the nature of the show where the producer's like, okay, come on, we got to show these highlights or do this. No, they kind of let Ernie and whoever's on the panel with him just run away with the show. Or at least it appears that way. They're not pressed to show this highlight or they're not pressed to do this sponsored segment. They'll get to it when they get to it. And sometimes, by the way, when they're on at 11 p.m. Pacific time, and I know they're out in Atlanta, Georgia in their studio, so it's 2-something in the morning, like that's hard work. It's harder than you think to be on your game and insightful and appealing at that early hour of the morning. Ask me how I know. It's not easy. But the show is less produced. It's less formulaic. It's just a casual, natural show. That's what people gravitate to, and that's my point here. Nothing was broke here. So in a way, I'm sad that TNT's losing it. I'm happy that they're keeping the show in terms of the production and something they love to do, something they're good at. And I'm happy for fans that it gets to continue because it was not broke. It did not need to be fixed. TNT loses out here, though. Let's go back to that part of it. They couldn't match the bid of Amazon Prime's C package. So you're imagining here that Disney with ABC and ESPN got the A package. NBC Universal got the B package, just in terms of quantity, right? Like, what are you getting? What's the volume of what shows and nights are you getting? What are the things you're signing up for? So the C package is like the smaller one, valued at $1.8 billion by USA Today. And so TNT got outbid apparently. Now they fought it. They tried to do the matching bid thing that was in their contract. Apparently they lost out on that. So Amazon Prime is in, TNT's out, NBC Universal is also in. And by the way, it's my thought on this. I don't have inside knowledge, but NBC has Sunday Night Football. NBC might be a bidder on the old ESPN package for Major League Baseball that ESPN backed out of. So maybe NBC gets in on baseball too, since they're already in on basketball. Maybe they make Sunday night their year-round night for sports. Sunday Night Football, Sunday Night Basketball, Sunday Night Baseball that ESPN used to have. Maybe that's what they do. But it's hard to see continuity disappear for money for me. And I know this is a business. Like, this is the way sports and, well, it's the way the world works. But for something like the NBA on TNT that had been around for so long, you just kind of wish that the league would give them every last benefit to match any single offer that anybody else made. I get it, though. The league's probably looking at the future and saying, well, our next 10 or 11 years, we want to get a streaming platform in there, and we'll do it any way possible. And TNT, you're the low bidder here, so we got to move on. It's kind of frustrating, but it's also, I mean, I'm not trying to paint a picture of my feelings here. I'm just saying it's a sign of the times that a traditional broadcaster like TNT, who has streaming platforms, who has the whole Max app and channel as part of their HBO connections. It's a traditional broadcaster losing out to a streaming entity. Amazon Prime is not a television network by nature. They've become a great one in terms of what they're able to bid on and the leverage they have. And I don't have any problems with their Thursday Night Football package at all. And actually their hockey coverage, I think this is their first year up in Canada, seems great. So like they do a fine job. It's just they haven't been doing this. They've hired the right people. We'll see how they sustain it for the next 5-10 years. But they're brand new at this. They're normally trying to overnight you packages on your front doorstep. And now they're getting into this business and they're taking out traditional operations like the NBA on TNT. But again, as much as there are changes, I'm glad for this foursome that their show will continue. People can still enjoy this. There was a point, remember, where Charles Barkley said he's done. He's just not going over. He won't work for anybody else besides Turner. Well, that's some pretty strong leverage there because ESPN said, fine, we'll keep all of Turner and this production in business. We'll just license the show from you. So we'll see how it goes. I would anticipate they won't miss a beat. It'll be the same old show. And that'll actually be good for ESPN. They kind of need a more casual show like this where it's not a bunch of, it's fun banter. It's not like argumentative. It can get that way this time, sometimes for this show, but I feel like ESPN needs a show like this, if I'm being perfectly honest. All right, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up on this video greatly helps me, this video, and this channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, please. That way, I get to see you back here next time.